Lights, camera,
Action.
action.
Okay, so we're learning in Parsha VYetze, chapter 28, Kof Ches, and we're going to be dealing especially with Pasuk Yud Dalet. So this is during the dream of the Sulam. You guys are familiar with the dream of the Sulam?
Of who?
Sulam.
Yes.
You guys, you do your basic hummus.
Yeah, Chitas.
So you've probably already
Remember the ladder in the dream?
you've probably already read about the fact that Yaakov Avinu left Beersheba on the way to Haran, and he had a dream. He lay down at a certain place, but Rashi tells us in great detail that was really the Makim HaMikdash. Whether that came miraculously to where it was, or whether that's what was really the Makom HaMikdash, that's a difference of opinion, but everybody agrees that where he actually lay down was the place where later was to be built, the Beis HaMikdash. And he saw a ladder, and the Gemara says that a ladder has 4 rungs to it. A bigger ladder can have more, but stam a ladder in the Gemara means 4 rungs. And he saw that this ladder had its feet, Sulam Mutzavar, was fixed on the ground, but its head reached into, the top of the ladder reached into Shomayim. Reisha Magia Hashomayim. And he saw Malachim Oilim V'Yerodim Boi. He saw angels going up and down on the ladder. So the simple question that occurs to the intelligent reader is that if you're on the ground and the thing is going up into heaven and Malachim are on the ladder, then where do Malachim usually frequent? Where do they usually in heaven? So if that's the case, why would they be coming down? Why would they be going up and coming down? Yeah, they have to come down and then go up. As a matter of fact, the kasha is not as silly as what it sounds, because Rashi deals with that. And Rashi gets out of the problem by saying there's 2 different types of malachim. There was the malachim from Chutz La'aretz that they'd been accompanying Yaakov Avinu up till now. So they'd already finished their job because he was entering Eretz Yisrael. He was leaving Eretz Yisrael and going to Chutz La'aretz. So those malachim that they were from Eretz Yisrael, they already could go up now because they had no more to do. They only were accompanying him in Eretz Yisrael. And now the malachim from Chutz La'aretz, they were coming down. So it was 2 different types of malachim. One set was going up, and another set was coming. That's how Rashi deals with the problem. But there's a famous little story of, you guys ever heard of the Halak Origina? Yeah, did you hear the Halak Origina? That was Rabbi Yisrael Miruzhin. He was a Einikol, he was a grandson of the Mezritcha Maggid.
The grandson of who?
He,
Maggid of Mezrich.
The Mezrich Magid,
The author of the Talmud.
son-in-law
The teacher of the teacher.
gave birth to him. In other words, he was like, or it could be he was it could be another generation. He was a great grandson, but he was a grandson direct from Magid. And he founded a whole siddur called Ruzhin. And nowadays there's all sorts of different branches of Ruzhin. There's Sadigura and Buyan and all these things. They're all from the original Rebbe, the Heilige original. So when he was a child, he used to learn by Malamed. They had a special Lamed, or maybe he was in a kitta with other boys, and he used to learn Chumash with the Malamed. So he used to ask all the questions that all the big Meforshim. He was so brilliant, even though he's only a small boy. He used to come up with all sorts of very difficult questions in the parsha. And the Malamed, he was afraid of this boy, because every time he said a pasuk, he would come up with some kasha that he hadn't produced, he hadn't prepared an answer for that kasha. So when he comes to this pasuk, Shahamalachim, Eilim v'Yorim B'I, yeah, he's for sure that the original is going to pack the kasha, that the malachim have to come down first, not go up. He's certain that the Heilige original going to cup the kasha. They learn the pasuk and everything. The Heilige original didn't say anything. So the Malamed turned to him and he said, I don't know, because she was already ready with Rashi's answer. Yes. So he said to the Heilige, where's everybody?
At the bris.
Yeah, I know, but whenever there's a shiur, you're supposed to come.
I know, they're coming now.
Okay. So he says,
question?
why didn't you ask the question? And, so the Heilige Ruzna said, of a cholem is kein kasha net. He said, whatever you dream in a dream, there's no kashas about that. So he said, since it was a dream, I don't have any room to ask any kashas. But anyway, you look very serious. You're supposed to laugh. Anyway, so that's the story about the Heilige Ruzna. Anyway, ask yourself the question, Takib, what are the malachim doing, going up and then coming down? So we'll see about that as we go along. And then in Pasuk Yudalad, while he's still dreaming, so the Eibishter says to Yaakov Avinu, and he says, "V'hoya zarecho kafa ha'oreb." He said, your seed is going to be like the dust of the earth, u'farachta yoma v'keidmo v'tzofoino v'negbo. And you will harikot, break out and spread out, u'farachta yoma v'keidmo v'tzofoino v'negbo. West and east and north and south. And all the families of the earth, in other words, all the goyim in the world, will all find their blessings through you. They will literally be blessed through you. Nivruchu means they will be blessed through you and through your seed, all those who are born of you. So you guys have heard of this Ufaratza. You've heard of the concept of Ufaratza. So we need to sort of understand what's it got to do with the fact that he told him that your seed is going to be like the dust of the earth. Well, in Pashtus, that would imply that there's going to be a lot of them, yeah? So there'll be so many of your descendants that they'll just, they'll spread all around the place and they will break all bounds, as you might say, yeah? But why does he sort of mention especially the different, kivunim, how do you call it, directions? He could have said they'll spread all over, or they'll take over the world, or they'll spread powerfully through the world. Yeah, why does he say Yom HaVakedma? Also, that's not the order if you go around the clock. That's like the opposites. Yeah. And then we see that the Eibster promises him that he's going to be with him. He says, Hine onichi imach u'shmarticho, I'm going to look after you. And then at the end he said, and I'm not going to, the Eibster said to him, I won't leave you, I won't abandon you until I've done with you what I've promised you. I'm never going to, and that's, I'm going to bring you back to this land which you've just left, which is earth. So I'm going to make sure that you come back. And that's in effect what happened. He went out and he was 22 years by law. After that he came back. Yaakov, and with a big pocket full of earnings. He didn't come back empty-handed to Eretz Yisrael. So we need to sort of get some sort of picture of what's this whole amazing promise, and what is the, as it were, pnimius of this idea of ufaratza. It's a very common inyan in Lubavitch, and the Rebbe made it one of the central themes of the whole modern life of Lubavitch is this idea of ufaratza. Yeah, so we need to get some picture of what does it mean. So the word poiretz means to break through something or to go beyond it in a powerful way. For instance, somebody who goes against the normal accepted rules of anything, he's called a poret zgeder. He's broken down the fence. And we see that Moshiach is called a poiret. It's written in Yoel, Ola hapoiretz lifneihem, that the breaker of all the barriers, he will lead them into the Gula. So we see that Melech HaMashiach is called a poret, yeah. So the word ufaratza is connected with the same basic idea of breaking through all limitations and breaking what you might call the fences and bursting outwards and upward. So we need to understand what's that connected with how the river connects it with the idea of going out and spreading Yiddishkeit all over the world and bringing Yiddishkeit to people. It's connected with the idea of breaking barriers. And so since Melech HaMashiach himself is called Poiretz, then we have to assume that ultimately this Ufaratsta has got some sort of a connection with the inyan of Mashiach. And that's what the Rebbe promised, that if we would keep the inyan of Ufaratsta, then there would be the inyan of the Gula Shlema. Sit down, okay. And maybe just sit on a bench. Okay.
Seems like
Good. So you probably know that Shabbos and Moitzer Shabbos are connected with the Middler Rebbe. You probably know about that. Yeah. You heard about the Middler Rebbe, yeah.
no.
You never heard about him? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about him, so that'll help you. It's, does anybody know what Tess and Yud are about?
The Yortzeit?
Yortzeit and birthday.
Birthday.
Huh?
Yortzeit and birthday.
Yortzeit and birthday.
Yeah, but that's only Tess.
That's Tess. Yom HaGeula.
Birthday and the Yortzeit are the same day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yud is the Geula.
Yeah.
Geula.
Tess is both the birthday and the Yortzeit.
Yeah.
That's how you add.
The Mittler Rebbe was born and passed away on the same day. Yeah. So what is Yud?
Yom HaGeula.
Yeah, that's the Yom HaGeula. In other words, he was also in prison in a different way altogether than the Alter Rebbe. He was in what you might call house arrest. But very, very severe house arrest because there were guards outside. But he was able to move around inside the house. But the threat of the whole arrest was pretty serious. And on Yud Kislev, the Mittler Rebbe, that's when he was let out. Does anybody know if he lived to see the first Yud Kislev? No, he didn't. In other words, he passed away on Tes Kislev
A year.
1 day short of a year after. In other words, his Yom HaGeula would have been celebrated on Yud, but he passed away on,
So is he
on
buried?
the Tes before it.
Was he buried?
So that's why in Lubavitch in the old days, it wasn't such a big, well-known Yom Tov, because it was a bit sort of sad, you know. The Mittler Rebbe passed away a day before the celebration of his Yom HaGeula. Therefore, it was sort of, how would we suggest, it was kept a bit on low key, you know. But the Rebbe never kept anything on low key, so the Rebbe stressed the whole inyan of Yud Kislev very, very much in a almost similar way to Yud Tes Kislev. Yeah, the Rebbe gave it a very big emphasis. So, in that case, L'chera, since this occurs a few days before two important days like that they run one into the other, then we have to say that this concept of VYetze, they got some connection with the Mittler Rebbe. So I want to tell you a story about the Mittler Rebbe. It's a very simple story. That once the Mittler Rebbe called in his, how do you call it, his, guy that helped him with these things. What's called a shamash. Yeah. He called in his shamash, and he said, listen, why don't you have a chumash? Hello?
I don't know how to translate Hebrew.
Give me English chumash.
You give me English. You work with English.
You're born to have a book open, yes. By decoration.
You see, a cup of coffee is important, but
No, I don't know how to translate
you
Hebrew.
gotta have the,
So you have an English one.
Yeah, I have it now. I would show that.
so,
Straight up water,
the Mittler Rebbe called in his shamash, and he said, I want you to go out into the street, and I want you to ask, what do Yidden in the street, what do they say about me? Yeah. It's an undersummator that happened, yeah. I want you to go out in the street and find out what do people say about me. So the shamash was quite taken aback by this shlichus. And he went out onto the street, and he was away a while, and then he came back. So the Mittler Rebbe said to him, what did you find out? So he said, listen, Rebbe, he said, all the people that I asked, they all said about you that in this, the Torah, in the hidden part of Torah, you're tremendous. Nobody can match you. Let's say in what we call chassidus, In Pnimis Torah, you're absolutely unmatchable. But in Nigla, the Torah, you know, you're also very learned. That's not kilo your speciality. You're not so, verse or great in Nigla, the Torah. So the Mittler Rebbe said, yeah. He said, that's not true. And he said like this. He said that if I were to leave the Chassidus, go, and you know, he used to say Chassidus very, very powerful, you know about that. You know. He said, if I let the Chassidus go, and I were to devote myself for a half a year to Nigla, he said, there wouldn't be another Goan in this whole generation like me. He said, I would just sweep the whole table clear. There wouldn't be anybody like me in Nigla. So he said, why don't I do it? Why do I the whole time hammer the Chassidus? He said, because I want to be able to understand the Ein Sof. I want to be able to understand the Ein Sof, and I want the Chassidim should have a desire also. Yeah, that's one thing. That's one version of the story. The other version of the story is that he said, I want that when two young Elite will meet up with one another on the street, so they won't ask one another, you know, what's happening with you, no, they'll ask, what's happening in Yehuda Eloah, what's happening in Yehuda Tatu. Levi, what's with you, man? We are very disappointedly noticing that you weren't here, you know?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. There was, I'll be right there.
And also, Betzalel's not here.
What?
Betzalel is also not here.
They're all on the way.
Oh, he's on his way. We're all on our way, you know. So, the Mittler Rebbe said that when young Elite meet, that they should talk about Yehuda Eloah, Yehuda Tatu. There's another version, a third version, which says that the Mittler Rebbe said that when two young Elite meet, he wants they should talk about in Atik or Arik. Yeah, they should talk about. Now, Atik and Arik are Pnimius HaKeser and Chitonius HaKeser. So he said he wants that young Elite should, when they meet, they shouldn't ask one another what's, you know, how you doing, what's happening. They should start talking about Atik or Arik. If Atik's too high, then we go down to Arik. That's one story. And you know the whole story, well, that's led me to another story. That's what happens with me. You know the story about the Alter Rebbe, that he once spent a Shabbos by Reb Pinchas Koritzer. And the Reb Pinchas Koritzer was a big Talmud of the Maggid, but after the, a big Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov, excuse me. He was a very, very big Talmud, but after the Baal Shem Tov's passing, he didn't accept the rulership of the Maggid. And he stayed like apart, you know. He didn't come there. He wasn't Enman or something, but he didn't accept the leadership of the Maggid. So once the Alter Rebbe, when he was already a Talmud of the Maggid, he spent Shabbos with the Reb Pinchas Koritzer. And the Reb Pinchas Koritzer was a very great man. He was a Kohen. And he saw who the Alter Rebbe was, you know. So he wanted very much that the Alter Rebbe should stay with him and be his Talmud, not the Maggid. So he said to the Alter Rebbe that if you will stay with me, I will teach you everything the Arizal knew. You know, what's the language of the trees, how they talk with one another, what's the language of the birds when they sing, they give over messages. And he said, I'll teach you whatever you name, you'll get it. And so he said, so the Alter Rebbe heard that, and then after Havdalah, in the evening, after they made Havdalah, the Alter Rebbe started packing his little bag. So the Rapinus Kortzer said to him, but where are you going? I promised you everything. So he said, I'm going to my Rebbe, to the Magi. So he said, but I promised, seriously, he didn't mean that. He said, I promised you all these things. So the Alter Rebbe said, I have to go to my Rebbe, because he teaches me Yehuda Eloah and Yehuda Tatorah. No, that was the reason he gave. In other words, the Alter Rebbe saw that Yehuda Eloah and Yehuda Tatorah were much more important. When I say much more important, they were more essential to avodas Hashem than knowing all these other great, amazing things. The Rapinus Kortzer.
What does that mean in English?
What does what mean in English?
Those two terms.
Upper unity, lower unity.
What does that
My
mean?
sir.
Yehuda Eloah and Yehuda Tatorah, the highest Yehud and the lowest Yehud. The highest Yehud is Hu levade hu v'ein zu lo aseh, that there's nothing else apart from Hashem. And Yehuda Tatorah, and that's how the Eibishter sees the Bria. Yehuda Tatorah is how the Nivro, he sees the Eibishter. And he feels himself to be a Metzias, but he says the Eibishter is the one who runs the whole world, and he controls the whole Metzias, and everything is bottled to Hashem, but only bottled in a way that you can feel yourself. You wonder, the first one, Yehuda Eloah, you don't feel anything, you're not there.
Intellectual?
That's called Yehuda Eloah. And that's the whole inyan of Shara Yukot. If you look in the Shara Yukot, at the beginning, the Alter Rebbe says that he wrote the whole Shara Yukot to understand Yehuda Eloah and Yehuda Tatorah. Yeah. Okay. So that's one story about the Mittler Rebbe. So the Mittler Rebbe wants us to be very elevated, He doesn't want us to mess around, when we meet one another. He wants us to go straight into what you might call the ultimate tachlis, Hu levade hu v'ein zu lo aseh. Yeah. And Lubavitch say, what's that? Ein oid milvat Okay, so now I'll just tell you one more story about the Mittler Rebbe, and then we try to get back to what we're talking about here. And the Mittler Rebbe, he began the whole idea of VYetze. In other words, that the Mittler Rebbe, people used to come, Chassidim used to come, and they would come with great Mesiras Nefesh. In those days it wasn't so simple. The maximum you could do would be to travel in a coach. But most people used to walk because they didn't have the sort of funds to pay for a coach all the way to Lubavitch from where they were. So they used to walk for days until they got, or maybe even more than just days. So the Mittler Rebbe had what to give, Once you came, you were not lacking. In Ruchnes, there was nothing lacking. But you guys know what a mimer, one mimer from the Mittler Rebbe could take 6 hours. Yeah. That would have been relatively not bad. So what happens is that the Mittler Rebbe says that whoever comes to visit, on his way back, he must, wherever he stops, if he's walking and he stops in a town, he must chazer the mimers that he's heard. So all the guys by the Mittler Rebbe were just working day and night to remember by heart, at least part of some of these amazing Mamorim, I notice you sort of have a bit of a problem keeping awake, sort of thing. Maybe, tough. You didn't come up with a day, we should have some hot coffee, you know. So these guys are working their brains, you know, to appreciate all these Maimorim and try and memorize them. Because the Mittler Rebbe said that if you don't do that, then it's better you don't come. You have to,
Wow.
yeah.